time. It's our time, my friends. Time for millions of maturepreneurs, 55 plus, who are hashtag not done by a long shot, to revolutionize how we lead, do business, and innovate our world. I'm your host, Jeanette Anderson, and welcome to my conversations with fascinating people who would rather inspire than retire. Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Maturepreneur Podcast. I'm your hostess, Jeanette Anderson, and today I am here with fabulous, lovely Lynn Lionhood. We were just talking about how, in theory, I'm supposed to be her little sister, but I cannot believe that that's true. So I think you're a lion woman. Anyway, so welcome to the show, Lynn. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you very, very much, Jeanette. I am so honored to be here. I really am.
I love talking to dynamic women, and especially those that have been referred to me by other people, because this show is for those who are hashtag not done by a long shot, too inspired to retire, or, refiring, not retiring. I have a bunch of slogans for y'all. And I want to bring you people who think differently about things that we do as we move forward in our lives, as we recreate ourselves or perhaps reinvent what we're up to in the world. And one of the things that we're going to be talking about with Lynn is networking, getting out, getting seen, and how do we also take care of ourselves going forward at this age and stage of life. And so both of those things are really important. And so I'm happy you're here, that we can have a frank discussion about that. And like I said, I love bringing you people who see things differently and do things differently as a result. So you have lots of examples to go on around the whole notion of it is never too late. So let me tell you Lynn's official bio, and then we'll find out all the, juicy tidbits behind the scenes after that. Lynn's looking a little terrified, but Lynn Lionhood, an executive director at LegalShield and IDShield for 22 years, specializes in assisting individuals, small business owners, and employees with a wide range of issues. With over 35 years of experience as a benefits consultant, she excels at providing solutions and helping people navigate challenging situations to get back to enjoying life and business. Lynn's passion for teaching the value of building relationships that foster business growth has led her to establish successful networking groups over the years. She's dedicated to empowering others and creating a positive impact in the community through her work. Awesome. Love that. So that sounds like a long time with LegalShield. Oh my goodness.
It is.
We're gonna talk about that and why and how. And by the way, just as a little aside, that is a function of typically a baby boomer or a late Gen Xer, because other generations tend not to say that because they tend not to do that. They don't stay with companies or organizations or their own business for long, long periods of time. So, by the way, if any of you are service providers listening to this, I'm going to get on a soapbox for just a minute, Lynn, and then we'll get right to you. Listening to this podcast, thinking that, oh, I can't provide insurance for people who are 70, or no, I can't possibly make business loans to people who are 68. That's way too late. These are people who do things for 10, 20, 30 years at a time. They don't dabble for a couple of years and move on to the next thing. So get your head out of your you-know-where and start creating products and services for this demographic, because they will be doing this work for decades to come. All right, that aside, let's come back to you now.
Good job, Jeanette.
All right, so tell us a little bit about you that people wouldn't expect or guess from reading your bio, maybe something even your friends don't know.
I'm going to tell you 3 little fun facts that you would not know.
Okay.
I was the cover of Fabulous Over 50 magazine.
Ooh.
That's something you probably wouldn't know. Another thing is I was a court reporter years ago.
Cool.
I'll bet most of my friends don't know that. And the last little known fact is I am an artist. And not just a regular artist. I don't seem to be able to do little things. I've done everything is large murals, 8 feet long by 4 feet high, and I have sold several of them to collectors who collect art around the world.
Awesome. Congratulations. That's
always on the circus theme. Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus contacted me wanting my stuff for their museum.
Oh, that's very cool. Congratulations. I love that. And I love that you think big. You know, one of my biggest inspirations in the world is Mount Rushmore. I've been there twice because I call myself a non-practicing artist because I actually live a mobile lifestyle and it's actually quite awkward to haul all my painting stuff around with me.
Right.
But uh, I love Mount Rushmore because I love the notion of I think I'll make a sculpture and I think I'll use a mountain to do it. Like, who thinks that way?
That's right. Who thinks like that?
Yeah. And so I love the audacity of that notion of, hey, let's just do a sculpture and yeah, why not use a mountain to do it?
That's right.
So congrats on the thinking big. I bet you that's going to be a theme that we go discover as we go along. So tell us a little bit about the passion for LegalShield, especially, but also what's your why? What's
I
your
think my why is probably the more important of the two right now, and then you'll understand why I'm doing what I'm doing. I did not know anything about networking at all when I came to this, but I was 35 years ago. My husband was an undercover narcotics officer for the city of Chicago, so it was a pretty dangerous job.
Mm-hmm.
I was a stay-at-home mom at the time with 4 small children, 2nd grade to 9th grade, and my husband had a very bad evening. And policemen showed up at my door at 2 o'clock in the morning and said, you need to come with us immediately. And I said, I have small children. They said, wake a neighbor up and have them stay with your children. So I did. And on the way out the door, they said, leave the televisions and the radios off. And I thought, well, that doesn't sound very good. Got in the squad car, lights and sirens going on, going through every traffic light again. I'm thinking, this is not a good sign. When I got to the hospital, this was 1988, the year that hospitals became trauma centers. And when I got there, there were police cars as far as I could see. And I thought, oh, this again, not a good sign. I went into the hospital. They took me into the little room that I call the bad news room. And there was the priest. And I said, is my husband alive? And he said, just barely. Now, my husband had been a very serious weightlifter. We were going to get him photographed for Muscle and Fitness magazine, so he was in the best shape of his life at this point. He had always told me he didn't think he'd live past 40 because his father died very young, and men tend to believe that's going to happen to them. And he was 39, and I kept thinking, oh, don't let him be right. Well, I went in, and they said he was hit by a semi tonight and cut out with the jaws of life. They said there is a 0% chance that he will survive. They took him into the CAT scan room. While they were trying to figure out where the bleeding was coming from, the main artery to his heart blew apart. And so they came running out to tell me they were going to do experimental surgery. They were going to take veins from his legs and try to build him an artery. And they said to me, one patient had died during surgery and one had survived 1 day. So I knew this was very serious. But I chose to pray immediately. And I always thought that I would not make deals with God in a situation like that, but you do. And I think many years looking back, I realized I did. But I remember praying, and I first asked for the strength to be able to cope with whatever was going to be on my plate. But secondarily, I said to God, look, you've already written this story. You know whether he's going to live or die. I have no control over this. But I am going to beg you that if you see your way clear to spare him, I will do something every day of my life for someone that I'm not related to and not financially connected to. Hence, this is where the networking came from. And so I needed validation that God was listening to me. I was so frightened by all of this. The surgery was over 20 some hours long. So I looked around the waiting room and tried to find people that were there by themselves. I'll never forget, I saw a young woman in her early 20s, and I went up to her. I did not know her, and I said, who are you here for? And she said, well, my boyfriend's having an appendectomy. And I thought, how I'd love to be here for that. And so I said, is there someone here with you? And she said, well, kind of. And I said, tell me. She said, you see the woman across the room? I said, yes. She said, that's my boyfriend's ex-wife. We have a very volatile relationship. It's very, very contagious. They fought physically. It was not good. She said, they're going to tell him how he is and not me. And I have to watch her and kind of read her body language to know what's happening. I said, okay. I said, I don't want you to think I'm a crazy person or anything. Just give me his first name and I'm going to say a quiet prayer to myself. I'm not asking you to do it. So I did. And she asked who I was there for, and I told her, and she said, I can't understand why you'd be with me. I said, this room is full of people praying for him. I need to be here for you. So I said my prayer. I moved around the room continuing this, and an hour later, she approached me and said, I don't remember your name. I said, I'm Lynn. She said, something very strange happened, and I think it's because of you. I said, what's that? She said they came out and told his ex-wife what his condition was, and she came over very graciously and told me everything. She said that would not happen. While I was very happy for her, but I want you to know, inside I wanted to cry. I was so happy. This told me God was listening to me. So I continued to do this. Chaplain came to see me the next day with an envelope full of chaplain wings saying, I'm thinking you're earning these. And that's kind of where I got off and running. My husband did survive. He lost a lung, his liver and kidneys shut down on him for a while. He was a mess. He was in a coma for 6 weeks, on life support for 7 months. 13 times he went through cardiac arrest. But I brought him home at the end of a year in a wheelchair and on oxygen. He's still with us. And now I just want to quickly fast forward 31 years. 31 years later, to the day on May 18th, my second daughter was 43 and was stricken with a brain tumor. And it was at the base of her brain and into her spine. I just prayed the same prayer I did for my husband. And the doctors had told me that only one of 3 outcomes. She would either pass away because of where it was, even though she was young and healthy, or it would be cancer that would buy her a couple of months, or she'd be a quadriplegic. She came out of it a quadriplegic. It's a very good story, really it is. Because she said to me, I said, are you okay with what's happened here? She said, Mom, I was 12 when Dad's accident happened. I remembered 2 things. You told Dad that his attitude would determine how well he would get through this. So she said, I will never cry about this and I will never feel sorry for myself. Now I'm going to be serious, Jeanette. I would have been a mess. I was so proud of her, although I didn't know where, she remembered something I hadn't even remembered I'd said. Number 2, she said, they told Dad he wouldn't walk, he wouldn't feed himself. And you worked with him and said if he was going to feel sorry for himself, he was doing a good job and didn't need help. But if he wanted to get up out of that bed, you would help him. Please help me and I will do twice as much as whatever you ask. And she did. And 9 months later, she was out of her wheelchair, out of her braces on her arms and her legs. So when my family looks back, we would not change any of this because Jeanette, sometimes God tests us and he's trying to teach us something. And as long as we realize what the lesson is, we can move on. What I learned the most from what happened to my husband was I didn't think I was a very strong person. I thought I was great as his spouse and maybe good as a mom, but I didn't think I had the power to stand on my own 2 feet and do the things I needed to do. Well, when your spouse that you've depended upon is completely taken out of the picture, you have no choice. You have to stand up. And I learned, so what you're seeing today is not who I was then. And I tell everybody, don't question your faith when things like that happen. Realize you're there to learn something. Figure out what it is, learn it, and you'll move beyond that. Otherwise, you're going to be stuck right in that spot until you learn it. But I'll tell you what, people have said to me now, you have connected so many people throughout the years that had your husband's accident never happened, think of the thousands of people that you have connected that would have never known each other. So there's so many good things that came out of this. There really, truly is.
Wow, what an incredible story and a beautiful framing that you brought to it, a perspective that you brought to it at the time, before, at the time, and since then. So I really want to dive deep into more of this, but before we even go there, where did that framing come from? Where did you get that kind of attitude that you would even ask that question or make that deal with God? Like, where did that come from in your journey?
I think, in all honesty, I don't often talk about it, but I did not have a very good childhood. It was violent at times,
Mm-hmm.
and it was very frightening. But I always had a sense that God was with me. I don't know. I just always inherently knew that. I did not get a religious upbringing, but I always knew He was there with me and that I would get through that and grow up and be able to get beyond that. And I thought about it in my late teens, and I said, I would listen to people say, well, I was abused, so I'm an abuser. I said, you know what? There's no way that that could happen to you and you would do that to someone else. It just can't be. You have other issues you need to deal with. And I thought, all I want to do is be a wonderful mom. And even to this day, if I were to die today, I would just want, well, now I want two things on my headstone. I used to say, I want to say she was a good mom. Now I want to say she was a good mom and a good grandma. That's very important to me. I have 15 grandchildren and I love them all dearly.
Well, and I'm pretty sure you would have to add and a gracious connector to that, because it
Oh,
sounds like you really did take that and turn it into a commitment to be a connector and a spreader of that wonderful perspective that you have.
I think it's just somewhere along the line. I don't know how it happened. And for young people, see, that's why this is good. We're talking to older people. I feel like I have a human Rolodex in my head.
Mm-hmm.
And when I meet people, Jeanette, if I were to meet you, I would say, Jeanette, how are you? And tell me what you do. And it's like there's some little person up there typing all that down. See, typing, that tells you I'm old.
Yeah,
typing all that down.
too.
That's right. Putting it on a little card in my head. And immediately I can't stop it anymore. The minute people start talking, like this thing starts going in my head immediately. And I'm thinking, she needs to know this person and this person and this person. And that's why I tell them, I love to have one-on-ones with these people after I've met them. And I say, get a pencil and paper, because I'm going to ask you to tell me one sentence about what you do. And when those wheels start running, you have to start writing. I'm going to tell you who I'm going to connect you to and why I'm going to connect you to them. And I'm not just going to give you a name and phone number. I'm going to make that connection. People say you're kind of like a business matchmaker. That's what you're like.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, first of all, I have major mad envy over the fact that you can actually remember all the connections. I'm a great connector too, but I cannot remember all those people. And I still haven't got a very effective system with my CRM and everything to be able to recall and tag people and so forth. So it's a lot more hit and miss than I wish it was. So
want me to help you with that? I can
so,
give you a tip right now that will help you tremendously.
yes, please, that would be very handy. Go for it.
And it's, I have no CRM. I don't. So I'm going to tell you my own personal little CRM that works wonderful. I train everybody on doing this. I say, go to the office supply store and buy 3 boxes of file folders, not the hanging file folders, the old manila type file folders. You want to get a box of red, a box of green, and a box of yellow.
Yeah.
1 full box of each. Now, suppose you go to a networking group and there are 40 people there. That's overwhelming because you can't remember who they are. You can't put names and faces together. So I say, grab their cards if you're in person. If you're not in person, I do my networking events on Zoom, and I give everybody a complete copy of the chat where they get everybody's contact information. And I say to them, here's what I want you to do. I'm going to go look up Jeanette Anderson. And I'm going to say, okay, she was one of the people that I met. I'm going to go look for your Facebook or LinkedIn page. I'm going to print page 1 of either one. The purpose is so that I have Jeanette's face and Jeanette's name. That will help me to keep it in my head. And it will give me a little bit of background that you probably wouldn't tell me. Where was your last job? Maybe where you grew up, where you went to school. Print that page, connect it to her contact information, and she goes in a yellow file folder. Everybody goes in a yellow file folder. Now, when I reach out and talk to Jeanette, I'm going to pull that out. Maybe we'll talk about some of what's on that front page of whichever one of those pages I printed. And I'm going to take, you must, I said, be a wonderful listener. Take copious notes. Find out what Jeanette wanted to be when she was 18 years old, and then find out what she does now. because I promise you they are not the same thing. She may say, I wanted to be a ballerina and now I'm doing the Maturepreneur podcast. Okay, Jeanette, how do you connect those two? The story in the middle is what people should want to know. That's the Jeanette story in her book. And I take copious notes on what you say. I want to know where you say you've lived, places types of work you've done, and I write all that down. And that goes in my file. Now, suppose I'm talking to Jeanette and everything goes south. It just goes to garbage and we're just not on the same wavelength. We can't seem to agree on anything. Jeanette's stuff comes out of the yellow file and goes in the red file. Red is dead. That means I don't waste any more time because listen, I'm an old bag. I don't have much time left in life. I don't have 20 years to try change Jeanette and turn her into somebody that I can work with. So she goes in the red file. Jeanette's dead. And if I'm talking to somebody like this on Zoom and things are going south and I've taught them this system, I pick up the red file and go like this. And then they go, are you putting me in the red file? I said, yes, I am. Now, if they're a cool person, they'll change their attitude. If they're not, they stay in the red file. Now, if I'm talking to Jeanette like today and everything is going wonderful, Jeanette goes in the green file because the green file's money. I know there's a future there. It doesn't mean that I'm buying from Jeanette or she's buying from me. It means that we can work together because I think partnerships are really, truly only good if there's two partners. You know, in a marriage, you can't have one person working at it and the other one not. It works that way, I think, in business too. Two people working together, much better. So I say to people, if you haven't taken the time, I mean, there were times I sat with people and had lunch 3 times and they said, I don't even know what you do, Lynn. I said, then that tells me I did my job right. I know everything about you. And I said, first, always give to the other person. In good faith, I'm going to listen to Jeanette tell me all about what she does. And I am immediately going to get those wheels turning and find connections for her. Either I'm going to find connections, introductions, or opportunities. One of those things, or maybe all 3. Now, I do say they have to be careful because Lynn's made lots of mistakes in life. I used to walk away from my first meeting and I would call you up and I'd have 20 things for you. Here's 20 connections. And you know what would happen? I'd never see Jeanette again. She'd be making so much money and doing so good, she'd need me anymore. And so she never fulfilled her end of the bargain. So I say to people, don't do that. Give them one and then wait to see if they're going to actually reciprocate. If they don't reciprocate, throw the rest in the garbage and don't worry about it. So, and I tell them that right up front. I'm going to give you one and I'm going to watch what you do. And if you do nothing, I'm not giving you the rest of them because I got a whole bunch. And so it really is just a learning process, but that has helped me immensely. At the end of the year, you got to have something to run through the shredder. Put all the reds in the shredder. In fact, I met somebody the other day who called me up and they started to talk and I said, oh my God, I think they were in my red file like 6 or 7 years ago. And I said, where have you been all this time? And they said, well, I don't think you like me very much. I said, oh, I'm ending this conversation. They were in the red file. I know they were. They haven't changed. So that will help you.
Okay, that's a fabulous system. B, very entertaining. That you got to have something to shred at the end of the year, and I'm listening with an ear towards okay, and how do I automate that? Because I travel, so I hauling around through.
Oh yeah, you have a lot of files.
That won't work. It's bad enough that I haul around my book that I keep notes in, but I think it would be quite easy actually to turn that into an online, Google document with a red folder, a yellow folder.
I was just going to say, yes, if you can color code folders that way.
Yeah, exactly. And to just have a form that gets moved between the 3 folders. So I think that is actually a really brilliant system. And once you've moved them into the green because they are the right kind of people and you've connected with them, that's the criteria for moving them out of the yellow, and they're either green or a red, right? They're one or the other. They're someone that you can work with, someone that you can't.
Perfect.
And I think that's also really interesting because part of the challenge is a lot of people, myself included, don't actually get to the point of clarity where they know whether or not this is someone that I can work with going forward or someone I can't. So that's a great thing. But even still, the work that you do to remember them because you invest so much in learning about them is the key to the remembering, right? Because it's one thing, I do literally hundreds of conversations with people that are 1 hour calls or like this, or
Oh
like
yeah, so
on
do I.
podcast or my other podcast. And they're fascinating people, and I know a little bit and can kind of connect them here and there. But it sounds like you invest a lot in the really getting to know them. So how much time do you spend following up on networking meetings and people that you meet? So in an average week, how many calls would you make after you do a
Oh
networking?
God. I will tell you that I get up at 4 in the morning, and every day, I wake up that time and I start working, and I literally will work all day long. I will take breaks every now and then, but I literally work until about 6 or 7 o'clock at night. I just have this enormous amount of energy and don't know what to do with all of it. I mean, like yesterday I sold a couple of plans. I brought a new broker on, which was a lot of work trying to get that taken care of. I was dealing with some issues with a client, and I had 4 large Zooms, and I passed out some mutual introductions. So I just have lots and lots of energy. My husband said, I don't really think you go to sleep at night. What I think you do is just pass out. And I think he's right, because I go to sleep in about 30 seconds. Many times I will tell him when I'm on the way to the bedroom, you better give me a kiss now. I think I got 1 minute and 30 seconds left in me before I'm done. True.
Okay, that's got to not be very good for your love life, or your husband's a very fast worker, one of the two, because like seriously, not good, girl. Okay, so
Oh,
that
that's so funny, Jeanette.
well,
I'm going to
tell it
share
like
that
it
with
is
them.
on
You're
the
going to
show
like
here.
that one.
We tell it like it is. Okay, I don't know if you are listening to this on the podcast instead of watching it on the YouTube channel, the Maturepreneur Network. You probably didn't see, but you may have heard my jaw hit the floor twice when she said I'm up at 4 and I work to 6 or 7. Like holy sheep shit. Um, I, yeah, no, I tend to be a night owl anyway, so I tend to work in the evenings, and sometimes till 2 or 3 in the morning, sometimes, but
See, we're just passing in the night. That's all. You're
exactly.
passing the baton to me, and I'll carry it till you get up.
That might actually be a good thing we should explore, whether or not we can actually do.
Good.
So tell me a little bit more about the networking, and then I want to talk about LegalShield, but then I really want to talk about you and your fascinating brain. So first, let's talk about the networking. What are some of the do's and don'ts that you see that people make? You've been doing it a long time, and particularly um, older people who may be coming back into the entrepreneurial world who've been employees their whole life, because there's a big difference between networking when you're
Oh,
an
yeah.
employee and when you're an entrepreneur. Um, so tell me a little bit about how you think of networking, and especially for people who are a little older or perhaps coming back to it.
First, I have a networking group every Thursday, every single Thursday. I used to do it like every other Thursday, and then I just said, you know what? People are forgetting what day they're getting into my Zoom room when I'm not there. I'm just going to have it every Thursday, and then I don't worry about it.
Mhm.
And when people come, this is the way I look at it. They're giving me 2 hours of their time. That's a huge chunk of time. Nobody has time these days. So I want to make sure that I accomplish a couple things. I feel obligated that they not waste their day. I don't want somebody to come and say, I spent 2 hours and it was a waste and I'm never doing that again. So I honor them. I want to make sure that they take away something of value every single time. I want to make sure that I train everybody. I get about 50 people, and they're coming now from all over the world. I want to train these people the right way to network, because most people have no clue. They think it's all about, I need to go there, I need to make a sale, and then I get out. And if I don't, I'm not coming back. So I just tell them from the very beginning, if you came here just to sell something and you're not going to be consistent, get off the call now. Just get off the call now, because you're wasting your time. And I don't want to disappoint you either. I did have once in person, I used to collect everybody's card, and I made sure everybody got a copy of the cards. And I remember standing up and saying, now, if there's anybody in the room that doesn't want to be contacted by every single person here, tell me right now. And a woman stood up and said, I don't want anybody to connect to me. Now, I'm just going to tell you honestly, I apologize for swearing, but I said to her, what the hell, are you in the witness protection program? Like, what are you doing here? Nobody goes to a networking group and says, I don't want to hear from anybody. So I picked up her card and I tore it up and I said, no problem. Nobody will ever contact you. I'm not even going to contact you back. And I never saw her again. But you know what? We can't cry over that. She had no intention to do anything but something for herself. So I think that people need to be taught. They want to know, they just don't know what to do. So the first thing I do is make everybody comfortable. I always give them a question and they all get nervous. Oh, she's going to ask me a question. I said, no. Everybody's getting the same question. I'm going to tell you what it is up front. Sometimes it's like, what fashion trend went out of style that you're glad is gone? It's something that's going to just loosen everybody up and let them know, you know what, you're a guest in my home. I want everybody to feel comfortable. I said, I promise you'll leave here and you'll feel you have 50 new friends today. And it's true. So I tell everybody, don't prejudge. And especially when you're older, you're taught these things throughout life and you carry them on and you can't get rid of them. And you think that because you're older, you can't change. Wrong. You change a little slower, but you can change. And again, our generation is a generation that I think is kind and friendly. And some of the younger generation, it's like, make a sale, move, make a sale, move. They don't want to take the time to get to know you. So we have to train them. Just like we trained husbands, we have to train these kids too. So that's what I do. I make sure they all understand what are the right things to do and the wrong things to do. And I tell them, consistency is the key. I usually share with them my story and I say to them, I never gave up on my husband. I never gave up on my daughter. And I'm not going to give up on you as long as you give me back two things. I want consistency because there's no way that I can refer you to 12 people and you never show up and they don't even know who you are. Show up. By the time they can say, oh, Jeanette, I know exactly what she does. Now you know you've been here long enough, but you must be consistent. And that's going to help you. That's going to help me. I said the second thing is when I sit with you one-on-one and I give you some names of people I'm going to connect you with, I'm not going to connect them until you send them back to me in an email. If you don't have the time to write them down and send them back to me, then you're really not serious at all. And I'm not going to waste my time. But if you send them back to me, I'll send you all the information and I'll make a great introduction for you. I'll edify you. I'll edify them. I'll tell you why I'm connecting you and I'll follow up to make sure it worked. But I put expectations out there. But when I get an older person who has to go back to the work world and maybe they haven't been in the work world for many years, they're going to be nervous. And I tell them, I'm going to hold your hand and stand right next to you until you're not nervous anymore. Tell me what you're afraid of because I was scared of everything when I started, everything. And I'm not going to let you feel like that by yourself. It's horrible to feel like that alone or to feel that everybody's moving at a fast pace and you can't. I tell people, slow down. Do you realize the richness that you've got from all you've learned in your life? That is so valuable. You know, I have a woman now that she was taking care of her ailing mother. Mother passed away. And she's been frozen and hasn't worked. And now her mother's inheritance is run out and she has to go to work. And she said, every time I show up at an interview, there's all these young, cute girls. And I'm like 55. Now what am I going to do? I said, no. You walk in there and you hold up your head high and you understand that you are filled with life's experience. They don't have that. They don't even know they don't have that. They have no clue. I said, you can walk in the door and when they say, well, Joni's got this cute little degree from this university and you didn't get that. You say, that's right. And I did fine in my life without it. So let me tell you what I can do for your company. Joni's going to be looking for a husband. She's going to be out till late at night and may show up late for work. Joni's going to be walking through the office looking for a husband. I'm not. I have time. I know how to go to bed on time, get up and go to work on time and do the things I have to do. So you have to take the things that you have that are wonderful things and expand on them and stand proud because God gave those to you. Those are your treasures. She doesn't have those. So they just need a little bit of fine tuning from me and they'll be fine.
Oh, Lynn, I'm not sure you're nearly emphatic enough or excited enough. All right, so let's talk about what are one or two mistakes that people make the most with networking. Now, you've talked about consistency and follow up and responsiveness. What are some of the mistakes that you see people make and trying to pitch right away? What else do people do that doesn't?
Those are the two biggest.
Yeah.
Not following up. I mean, seriously, if not following up is just terrible. They asked me to go one day, and I had become the #1 recruiter in my company out of 450,000 agents.
Wow.
And they asked me to get up and talk in front of this group of people. I don't know. I think there were 700 people there. And I said, what am I going to talk to these people about? I don't know anything. They said, oh, no, you got to talk to them about what you did and how you got there. I said, what they don't understand is there is no secret sauce to anything. There just isn't. But I said, okay, I'll do that. So I got up in front of this room full of people that I don't know. I know a few people in the front. And I said, all right, some of you I know and some of you I don't know. But I said, I can tell right away who the successful people are in this group and who isn't. I could sort the room out in about 5 seconds. And somebody said, well, how could you do that? I said, well, I'm going to tell you something. We are all independent contractors. So when I look around this audience, all the skinny people are not eating very well. So they're the unsuccessful people. The fatter people are the ones that are eating well. Those are the people that are very successful. Now I knew I had all their attention and they were paying attention to what I was saying. I said, now, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you like Kentucky Fried Chicken? And the people that asked me to come and speak are looking like, what is she talking about? I said, how many people like Kentucky Fried Chicken? Raise your hand. A whole bunch of people raised their hand. I said, all right, I want to play this out with you. If you and I went out to lunch today and we went through the drive-through window and ordered our food and they gave you the bag of food through your window, and when you drove away, you opened it up, and when you're ready to eat your lunch, somebody made a mistake. Inside, they put the secret recipe for Kentucky Fried Chicken. What are you going to do with that? I said, now, you have two choices. How many of you are going to take that recipe, go home, stick it on the shelf and say, you know what? One day I'm going to go try that recipe and see how that is. I said, how many of you people are going to do that? A bunch of people raised their hand. I said, let me tell you something. The room we're in now is nice and cool. I'm going to give you permission to lean back in your chair and go to sleep. And they looked at me and I said, just go to sleep. I said, I'll tell you why in a second. As long as you don't snore, you can sleep and you'll get 2 or 3 hours of great rest, nice and cool and dark in here. It's fine. I said, now, the other option is, how many of you are going to stop and say, I'm taking the rest of the day off of work. I'm going to the grocery store. I'm going to get a cart and I'm going to put 3 times whatever that recipe asks for in my cart. And I'm going home and I'm going to make that recipe over and over and over again until I got it tasting just like Kentucky Fried Chicken. I said, that's me. How many people are with me? Some people raised their hand. I said, get out your pencil and paper. Because I said, I'm going to tell you about the secret sauce about how I got to be #1. And the people who are going to take the information that they write down and go home and put it on a shelf, and maybe they'll do it one day, they're never going to do it. It's going to collect dust. Nothing's going to happen. So go to sleep. You're all right. I don't want you to miss it. I said, but the people who are like me are going to take the day off of work, start writing. I expect that tomorrow you're going to do everything I'm telling you to do, and you'll be as successful as I was. So I think follow-up is extremely important, but it has to be right away. You can't call somebody and say, hey, 3 months ago, I met you somewhere. They don't remember you. Send out a blanket email to everybody. Write yourself a little paragraph tonight, and everybody gets a paragraph and says, I met you at Lynn Lionhood's networking event, and I'd like to set up a meeting with you. And you know what? One-on-ones are really overvalued. A one-on-one is nothing. You know what, Jeanette? If you and I went out and had lunch today and you didn't like me, that'd be a long lunch for you, Jeanette, to have to sit and eat with somebody you didn't like. But you know what? I used to look at the table and say, hey, this table holds 7 people. I'm inviting 6 other people. And here's my thought. If we know going in that we only have an hour and a half for lunch, we'll divide the time up equally amongst everybody. But if Jeanette's in the group and she doesn't like me, guess what, Jeanette? There's 5 other people there. You might just love somebody else, or you might love a whole bunch of them. And it won't be a waste of your day. So I tell people, go pick the restaurant you like the best. Pick a table that seats a lot of people. and tell the restaurant owner that's going to be my office. Every Tuesday, I'm coming in there and have lunch with a room full of people. And so follow-up is extremely important. And then you've got to get past that. I have to make a sale. That desperation oozing out of your pores is terrible. If people feel that you're only there, you're a name, and they just want you to sign on the dotted line and you'll never see them again, they have no use for you. We all see people like that. So you can't be doing that. Genuinely be interested in learning about that person. Not only will maybe they'll buy, maybe they won't. But if you develop a great relationship with them, guess what will happen? You'll get referrals, you'll get connections from them. It'll be a lifelong thing. And maybe eventually they'll buy from you. Maybe they'll buy from you right away, but much, much better chance that will be a much more advantageous relationship that way.
Yes.
So those really are the two most important things people have to learn.
Okay, well, I'm hearing lots of great nuggets and valuable things for people to take away. So I just want to underscore a couple of them. So first of all, follow up immediately. One of the most important things, one of the things I do the worst and the most, inconsistently, which is a problem because I do invest a lot of time in networking and I don't get ROI on that time in terms of actual connections because I don't follow up right away because I'm so busy. So one of the things that I am building into my calendar right now is a block of time after every networking meeting I go to do the follow-up and reach outs and connections and all of those emails and so forth, because there just won't be time later in the day to do it. Or
are your people local to you, most of them, or are they not?
No.
See, now mine are not right now. So if you take that block of time, keep it consistently that block.
Yep.
And then when you go to a networking event, invite them all to a mini Zoom. Put 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. Listen, they will love that. And a Zoom is great for most people because they don't have to travel. They don't have to buy. I tell them, listen, we're going to have lunch together. Come to the Zoom and bring your lunch and we'll all eat together.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that's a brilliant tip as well. I actually just first encountered that recently with a lady that I know. I was following up to catch up with her on what's new in her world and where is she at now. And she does group networking, not even networking, because it's not a networking meeting, follow-up meetings and getting to know coffee chats. She does group coffee chats.
Right.
And I thought that was brilliant. And so that was earlier this week. You're underlining it. So I am definitely going to figure out how to do that in Acuity, set up an appointment that multiple people can book into. And then I wrote down here, passion, based on your example, passion plus commitment plus systems plus doing the work equals stellar results. Because that really is what I see in terms of you and the example that you're providing. So what is the other thing? Because you've given us a lot of what you do, but what is the being that has you be the number one recruiter in that organization out of 450?
I think it was letting people know that I genuinely wanted their success. You know, this was either going to be a job for them or it's going to be a career for them, one of the two. If it's a job, people are not invested. They just want to go, put in their time, go home. Even if they're working for themselves, there are a lot of people who say they want to work for themselves, but the reality is they're not in a position to really want to do that because they're not self-motivated enough. So I would ask them, I would say, if you want to be an entrepreneur, because not everybody's cut out to be one. They all think they are, but they all think it's like winning the lottery.
Yeah.
Listen, a winning lottery ticket is nothing more than a stinking piece of paper with numbers on it if you don't turn it in.
Yes.
So you do have to do something with it to get the money.
Yes.
So I would say to people, listen, if I recruited you today, Jeanette, I would say, listen, Jeanette, if I went out and hid a huge diamond in your front yard, and I said, Jeanette, every day you have to go up and you have to dig out part of your yard. When you find the diamond, it's yours. Okay, Lynn. So you go outside the first day and you dig up a quarter of your front yard and you don't find anything. Okay, you're tired. You go in for the day. The second day, you dig up another quarter of your yard, find nothing. The third day, you dig up a quarter of your yard and you go, that's it, I quit. That diamond is still there. And what's going to happen when I bring the next person on and I let them go dig up the last quarter of your yard and they find the diamond right away? It was always there. So I always look at this and I say to entrepreneurs, We are like cavemen. We eat what we kill. It doesn't come open our front door and lay down on the floor and say, here I am, eat me. That's not what happens. You have to go out every day like it's a treasure hunt and say, it's out there somewhere. You got to go find it. And you have to have a good positive attitude, because if you go out all grumpy and grovelly, nobody's going to talk to you.
Yeah.
Nobody's going to talk to you about anything. So it's a lot of attitude, but they have to motivate themselves. As the number one recruiter, I gave that up after 3 years, and I said, I can't do it anymore, because I found people that literally, they thought I was their mother or their girlfriend or their wife or something. I had to tell them every morning to get up, put on your underwear, and go outside. You got to get moving. And I just said, I'm tired of it. I can motivate myself, but I'm not going to be responsible for somebody who doesn't want to do it for themselves. They just don't. I said to them, you'd be better off to go back to your old boss and say, you know what, boss? I thought I could do your job, but I can't. I need somebody to tell me what to do all the time. So they do have to be, if you want to be an entrepreneur, you have to be blatantly honest with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Can I get up every day with a positive attitude? I'll tell you a couple of secrets I got for entrepreneurs,
Okay.
especially when they're entrepreneurs who make nothing unless they sell something. That's a lot of them today. I say to them, look, first thing you have to do is you have to go to your spouse or significant other, somebody that loves you, and you have to tell them why you want to do this. Mm-hmm. And it better be convincing, because if it's just, well, gee, I just can't stand my old boss, that's not a good enough reason. No, it isn't. You better tell them why you want to do it. And I said, you have to have buy-in from that person. You really have to have buy-in, because a lot of people will have a negative spouse, and that will undermine their success right there. That will not work. So I said, here's what I did. I thought about it this way. I've been married to this man all these years. He can't really not want me to succeed. He must want me to succeed. So I told him, and I'll tell you, I used to work in corporate America. I'll tell you why I decided to work for myself. I had a boss that I carried a pager in case anything happened to my husband, because they told me, if that graft to his heart blows, get to him as quick as you can. We cannot redo this surgery. So everything was fine for a few years. And then I had a neighbor call me and say, there was an ambulance at your house. You better get home quick. Now, I was working in downtown Chicago. I needed to get on a train. They don't run like they do at rush hour in the middle of the day. And I went to my boss and I told him. He knew what had happened to my husband. Told him I had to go home, and he wouldn't let me go. He said, you're the top salesperson I've got. We'll let you go next week. I said, he might be dead tomorrow. I need to go now. He said, well, that's the best I can do. I said, really? You're the boss. You can do whatever you want to do. He said, I told you that's the best I can do. So I picked up my purse and I went to the ladies' room. And on the way, I had a little talk with myself. And I said, I knew that what I was going to do was leave. And I left and I got on the train and I thought, you know what? You're probably going to be fired for insubordination. But that's okay. After all I'd been through, I knew I could find another job. And I prayed for God to find a way I could work for myself. So, and I did. But I'm going to tell you something. That, as an entrepreneur, is something you have to tell yourself. Why am I doing this? And you have to express that in the best of terms to your spouse or significant other. And I did. And I told my husband, I want to work for myself so that the next time you need me, I don't have to beg somebody to come. I can get up in that room and go to wherever you are in the other room and take care of you. And what was he going to say? No, thanks. Go back and get that job back? No, that's not true. So secondarily, you need to buy in from him or her. And I said, here's what I need from you. They have to feel that it's for them too. I said, I need you to be my cheerleader, so that if I'm having a bad day and I come in and say, oh my God, I got 4,000 no's today, I need you to tell me, that's okay. You just get a good night's sleep today and you go back out and slay that dragon tomorrow. I know you'll do it. That's what I need you to do. But if I have a great day and I land something big, well, I expect to come home and I want you to get on your good clothes and we're going to go out, we're going to celebrate. And I need you to be my cheerleader for that. So now he has a job that he has to do for me. He's bought into this. He every day wants to know, was it a good day? Was it a bad day? He wants to hear about it. And I need to vent that because I'm working for myself. I'm not in an office anymore where people will know what's going on. I need that feedback.
Yep.
So lastly, they want a time frame. So I figured I'm a little slow. I had left a 6-figure job. I said, here's what I need. I need a year. If I'm not making the same income that I did that I left in a year, I'll go get my job back. And I knew that was never going to happen. I was never going back to work for that guy. But that will be enough impetus. And he knows there's a deadline to this, that it's not going to drag on for 10 years and you didn't make but $20 this week. That's not going to happen. So I would say those 3 things. If you do those, you'll be all right.
Okay, so great advice in there. And what I heard in answer to the being question, because see, I think a lot of focus and emphasis in our world is on having, certainly in our commercial advertised world, et cetera. It's all about what car do you drive and so on. And in our very doo-doo world, I call it the doo-doo world, where there's a lot of BS and so forth, it's all about the doo-dooing. And that can get to be a whole bunch of shoulds and have-tos and a little hamster wheel. So we really need to know, who do we need to be in order to do the things that will have us have the results that we want. And what I heard in your answer around, why are you number one in that organization? Why have you outperformed 450,000 other people? Is because you care deeply and you let them know that. You're encouraging. So you are that cheerleader that you enrolled your husband or your partner, your spouse in being. So you are that for others as well. And you are motivated yourself. So you kind of inspire that, engender that, whether you want to or not, because you stay motivated and inspired about what you're doing as well. In other words, your why is really close to your heart. One of my titles is the Why Whisperer, because I'm a big advocate of people knowing their why. Why do they do what they do? So that they can be the difference that only they can be in the world. And so I really hear those 3 aspects of your being as a real difference maker in terms of the results that you have. And those of you who are listening, you'll notice none of those are exceptional, meaning you don't have to be different than everyone in the world to get different results. You can be super caring, you can be encouraging, you can be motivated, and create exceptional results. And how do we know that? Because we have examples of that, like Lynn, like other people who have done incredible things, and they're people just like you and I. So thank you for that example. And you love being a teacher. That's another aspect of the being part. You love to educate and inspire. So that piece too. I do want to talk really briefly about LegalShield, just because we mentioned it a couple of times and some people may not know what it is. But and then I want to find out more about how people can get in touch with you and contact you, and how do we find your networking events, and who are those for? So a few practical things. But first, just tell everybody briefly, what is LegalShield?
You know what? I'm going to tell you what LegalShield is most important to me, because I think that will resonate the best. When I had this whole situation with my husband, which you guys now all know, I had a couple of situations come up. One of them was when I brought him home. He was on oxygen full time and in a wheelchair. And his job that he had done at that point up to 20 years called me up and said, you know, that oxygen is very expensive. We're going to have to take the oxygen away, and we'll talk about whether he needs it or not. And I said, are you kidding me? Like, I had begged for the day that I could take him home from the hospital. He got hurt on the job, and it's a very serious injury. And his doctors say he can't live without the oxygen, and you want me to take it away and talk about it. So he'll die after a few days. And then you'll say, oh, well, okay, we were going to give it back to him. No, we're not doing that. I said, you're good at arresting people or locking them up, but you're not his doctor. So the answer is no, that's not going anywhere. So it became very stressful for me. I had to fight for a long time to get that to stay there. If I would have had an attorney, which I couldn't afford at that time, that would have stopped right away. And I wouldn't have had that extra stress. I think that's when my hair started going gray, honestly. So let's go to one other story. Once a year, they would send me this form to fill out through his union that you filled out and you sent it back, and it gave him his life insurance for another year. Not a lot of insurance, enough to bury him. Probably not even enough to bury him these days, but that's all it was. And I was used to that. For 20 years, I filled it out. You had 30 days, send it back. Well, when I'm in the hospital with him, time's going by, I'm not answering mail regularly. When I came home and found it, I filled it out and sent it back. It was beyond the 30 days. They canceled his life insurance. He will never get life insurance again because of his medical history. So I had to fight and fight and fight for 10 years until I got it reinstated. But during that time frame, I began to sell. I had started in a security company selling security officers and police officers to companies. And when I needed to work for myself, I went to work selling benefits, AFLAC and health insurance and life insurance, things like that. That's when somebody approached me with LegalShield and they said, I know your story. I think you could have used this. And I had used an attorney a couple of times, but it was so expensive that you just have to learn how to just make it up on the fly. You guess or you ask, like I used to ask my father-in-law until he passed away. And then I thought, no, I don't have anybody to ask. So we can't live like that. We're taught that they make more money than us and we can't afford them. And so we do without them, even though we need them. All of a sudden, LegalShield came along and it was like $30 a month. And I could call them up every day, 5 minutes or 5 hours a day and get advice. I could get letters and phone calls done. They would look at all my contracts and documents. They gave me a will, a living will and a medical directive. I didn't have those things when I was in the hospital with him. Every time they took him off of life support and he would flatline, they would say, do you have a living will? I didn't even know what it was. All of this stuff was done. Traffic tickets taken care of. If you're sued, if you're audited by the IRS, it's all included. I said, are you kidding me? So I said, let me try it. And if it works like you say it works, maybe I'd like to go out and represent that. And it was so good that I got somebody else to represent all the other benefits. And that's why I went to LegalShield and did it. I went into a company and out of 225 employees, everybody but 6 took it. And I said, there's something to this. People need this. It was absolutely incredible. So it's because I tell people, use it. Just do 2 things for me. Try it for 30 days. There's no fee to get out if you don't want it. So for $30, I want you to get your will, your living will, and your medical directive done. Secondarily, I want you to take a whole day and make a list of everything that aggravates you in your life and call them up and give it all to the lawyers. Give them 30 days to fix it. If they don't fix it at the end of 30 days, I'll get you out.
Okay, that's a pretty bodacious and audacious offer. I love that. And so how can people find you or get in touch with you?
Best way to do that is I'm going to give you my email address and I'm going to give you my cell phone number. I don't care which one of those you reach me at. Okay. So you can reach me at RHL, like really happy Lynn, 6807 at gmail.com. Or they can dial me on my cell phone at 630-697-6889. Either way, I will take great care of them and make them part of my project.
All right. So you can tell just from what she just did, which is put out in public to the entire world. And so no weirdos out there use that information.
Oh, no, weirdos are going to use it. You're going to get weirdo. We always get weirdos.
Yeah, but that really speaks to your willingness to actually connect with people, because so many people safeguard their email and safeguard their phone number and so forth because they don't want to get inundated with calls and emails. And you're just like, nope, bring it on. I am here
sort them out
with people. So
that's right.
That's amazing. That's amazing. And do you have like a VA team? You must have a team that supports you in managing all the balls that you manage. Seriously.
I don't. Seriously. I don't have one person. I do it all myself. One way or another, I get it done.
Hence the 12 to 14-hour days. That's probably part of it. That's amazing. Okay, so and Lynn, what would you say to someone who is my age, 64, your age, whatever you said you were, I forget, some ridiculous.
Gonna be 70 in a couple months.
70 or beyond, or whatever age they are, that is thinking of starting a new venture and thinking, oh, I'm too old. What's in one sentence, what would you say to them?
Never discount what we can do. Never. I can't tell you the numbers of people who say to me, I am 30 or 40 years younger than you, and yet you outperform me every day. I will stand next to somebody 30 years old, and I'll bet you I can outwork them every day.
Yeah. All right.
All in your mental attitude. If you think you're old, you're old.
Yes. All right. And now, what would you say to those people who are perhaps not quite as bodacious as you, not quite as willing to put themselves out there, not as extroverted? How can they get started in that connecting world if they're, let's say, a raging introvert, or there's someone who's never actually been part of being out there? They've been stay-at-home mom, or they've been the, person in the cubicle their entire life. What
My
would you say
best
to them?
advice to them is, did you write down my phone number and my email address? You contact me and I will fix that for you. I've had so many people who come to me and say, I don't even know how to do this. And I said, I'm going to show you. And I think that the biggest thing I do for those people is I put myself in their shoes. I've always done well with every company I've ever been with. I look at them and say, how would I do it? And then I tell them the answer and I show them how to do it. I'll make the connections for you. Before you know it, you're going to be having so much fun. Listen, you can either sweat this stuff and it's going to be like taking medicine the rest of your life, or you can have so much fun. You can laugh, make money, and enjoy every last minute of your life. And that's what I'm going to show them, that they can do that. They just don't know how. I'm going to show them.
All right. So you mentioned that your primary business is LegalShield. Do you also get paid for coaching or your networking events or any of that? All of that is the means to the end of your LegalShield practice.
All of that is my give back to God for my sparing my daughter and sparing my husband for the until they put me in the ground. I will do all of that for free. People say to me, why do you not get paid for the coaching? No, no. That's my way to give back. When I say I would like you to be part of my project, it's because I need about 800 people a year to fulfill my promise to God. So people like you, Jeanette, are blessings that God has given me. Somehow, look where you are in the world and look where I am physically in the world. There's no way we would meet, but somebody made that connection, and there's a reason you're in my life, Jeanette.
Yeah.
So I know that everybody who comes in, he has put these people in front of me and said, Lynn, you know how to take care of them. Go take care of them. So again, I would do everything to help them.
Okay, I love that. And I just want to be really clear because I know that there are lots and lots of women who listen, especially women, some men, but especially women, who think I have a ton of expertise and I have to give it away for free because that's kind and being nice and so forth. So I don't want them to confuse that. And I get that you're fulfilling that promise to God, but you also are a very strong businesswoman. There's no way you're the head of your organization and you don't make a lot of money. Like, there's no way. So tell people, if you're willing, to just say, yes, I have a very lucrative business.
My business supplies everything that I need, but you spoke a little bit earlier about this world today, about we have to keep up with everybody else. I don't.
Okay.
You know what? I only can drive one car at a time. I do have two, and they're beautiful, but I don't go get the latest and greatest every single year. My cars are beautiful. I live in a beautiful home, but I don't need 4 homes.
Mm-hmm.
I don't need all these fancy vacations. Can't do them anymore. I would rather have time with my family. So just place your priorities. Quit trying to keep up with everybody else. Be happy and satisfied with the blessings that God has put in front of you. That's what I think people don't do. They don't take the time to appreciate everything they do have. They're always worried about what they don't have.
Yes.
You know what? I don't. The only thing I sometimes worry about is there ice cream in the house? If there's no ice cream in the house, I will panic a little bit. Okay. But other than that, there's no panic.
A whole nother take on Kipling, or on success and what the priorities really need to be, which is making sure right. Ice cream in the freezer, which right. is great. So thank you so much, Lynn, for being here. Thank you for your enthusiasm and for your stand for people to really get taken care of in so many ways, like not only personally and as you meet people, and really being the source of connecting. And by the way, I read in an article in Forbes, but I cannot remember what episode, or edition, so I can't point you to it, but I read that there has been studies done and that great connectors earn on average $60,000 more than those who are not. So there is some very practical and financial gain to being a great connector. But as you can see and hear, there is so much intrinsic value and so much gratification and so much contribution to be had with being a great connector as well. And both, it should be I think I say that I'm a stand for the and, not either or, not either make a meaningful difference or a magnificent living. How about and? Not either, the making good impact or making good income, both and. So I love that you are a stand for the and as well, and that you really are walking your talk when it comes to being that connector and investing in people and supporting them very practically, and that you're also a fierce stand for your business and making sure that people get taken care of in terms of their legal needs too, because there are so many of those, like you said, wills, simple little things like that we need to get taken care of for ourselves and our families. So love meeting you, love your energy and enthusiasm, and please do reach out to Lynn. And
if they reach out to me and they're having problems in their business, I would love to incorporate them into my networking events and show them all the wonderful things that are out there for them.
So tell us about the networking event. How do they find out about those or register?
If they contact me by my phone number or my email address, I will give them all the information. They are every Thursday. They are at noon Central Time. They go for 2 hours. And I promise you, you will come away from there and say, where has this been all my life? You will. I promise you. It will be fun.
Awesome. All right. So
I'll keep them busy. Are you kidding me? Who wants to do cold calls? I tried cold calls once when I first started working. People said swear words I didn't even ever heard of. They hung up on me. It was horrible. You can't feel good about yourself when you get done with a day of doing that. I tell people, if you hate cold calling, come to my event. I'll give you a whole list of people. By next week, you'll say, I'm not finished with the ones from the week before, and I'll give you more.
Okay, awesome. All right. Well, there's an abundance attitude. If ever you need an injection of abundance attitude, there it is. So tell us the email and phone number one more time, because people might not have had a paper to write it down.
Yeah, all those people that didn't write it down, get out your pen now. You had a chance. RHL, like really happy Lynn, 6807 at gmail.com. And the phone number is 630-697-6889.
Love it. All right. Thank you so much for being here, my friend. I appreciate it. And I love your attitude. And we are definitely sisters from another mister, up to a similar kind of similar game in the world, different expressions of it. So thank you for being here. Now, those of you who have been listening, and if you've enjoyed this, and even if you didn't, please comment in the podcast or on the YouTube channel, wherever you heard this or saw this. If you prefer video, you can go and see this on my YouTube channel, the Maturepreneur Network, for those of you who want to see the video. And if you're seeing it on YouTube, but you prefer to subscribe to the podcast, you can find it on Apple or Spotify or any of the major platforms. Please do like, join, subscribe, whatever it is on the platform you're on, because that does help me get this out to more people, to have more maturepreneurs find this information. And whatever part of the wisdom workforce you are a part of, those who are going back to work, those who want to create some social enterprise or a nonprofit because you aren't done contributing, or you need to work because you don't have the wherewithal to golf or knit for the next 30 or 40 or 50 years, or the interest in it, whichever it may be, or both, then please pass this on. Invite your friends to the show. Have them find these resources. There are millions and millions of maturepreneurs in the marketplace who don't have a place to gather. So I am committed to creating that platform, that world, so that we can connect with each other, because as Lynn put beautifully, we need connections to make things work. So thank you, Lynn, for being here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We'll talk to you soon. And again, please stay tuned, because I'm bringing you more awesome people like Lynn every week. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening. I'd love it if you left a comment and subscribed. And I encourage you to apply one aha from this interview right away so you can turn your wisdom into wealth and your contribution into positive change. Bye for now.